Okay, guys, thank you for joining us today at Mission of Grace. Thank you guys for everyone being here today. The sermon we're going to talk about this morning is Before We Speak. That's what I'm calling it. And we're going to start with James chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles? And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on the course of nature, and it's set on fire by hell. So today we're going to talk a little bit about speaking. And I must confess that I don't know about you all, but my mouth has lit many a fire and blazed through countless fields. My tongue has been sharp, brutal, reckless, crude, caustic, and explosive throughout my lifetime. So this message is for me as much as it is for anyone listening to it. We all could do a little less talking and try to keep the damage from getting started. Because once you say something, as we all know, like the little illustration we've used before with the kids, is once the toothpaste is out of the toothpaste container, it doesn't go in. It's pretty much out. So we all need to be a little bit more careful and conscientious of what we're saying. I look at it kind of like I look at my own fat belly sometimes. And that is, the tongue is the core of our spirituality. The core to our body is our stomach area, around our waist, the lower back. It's for balance. And the tongue is a balance for all of us. It says in James 3:11, can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? No, it cannot. So too the mouth. Can we express hope and glory and recognition of God and blessings on other people, and at the same time be vile and crude and reckless and mean-spirited with our tongues? It doesn't make sense. Only one thing should flow from us, and that should be edification of God and others. And I don't mean that we should always be saying praise the Lord, praise the Lord, and all that stuff. I mean, our countenance, our body, our balance should be measured by our tongue, speaking good things and wishing and saying hopeful things rather than being so negative and blue and all the things we can be. If we just sit and watch the news, we're liable to walk away from the set and say all kinds of stuff, let alone how we really feel about the people we work with or live with or whatever. There's no time to let up. If we're either going to present springs of goodness and hope, or we're going to be spilling pollution and things that aren't good for us. So the question today is, how do we control it? Or better yet, how do we put a plug in it? Because we spew too much as it is. We're going to discuss how we should practice thinking before we speak, listening better before we speak, and thirdly, speaking more kindly when we do get the opportunity to speak. So we're going to go over those 3 points today. So we're going to start with point number 1. Think before we speak. Are you someone who can speak and have thought about what you're going to say, or you just say whatever? So let's concentrate on that a little bit. Let's start with Proverbs 18, verse 21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. Wow, what a powerful declaration from the Word of God. The tongue, your tongue, that little spark in there, has the power of life and death. You can speak the optimism of life, even through faith, even though you don't know it may turn out well. You can speak wellness and hope and power of life, or you can speak death through defeating things, negative statements. Just an angry, bad attitude can present death on somebody, on a relationship. How many people have started out in love with each other, and by the force of their tongue, it's dwindled down to a death where they can't even talk anymore. They don't want to. They don't need to. They've stabbed each other so many times, they killed what they had because both or one of the two couldn't stop saying too much, especially too much of the negative. That verse literally means, I've looked it up, and it says death and life are in the power of the tongue, literally in the hand of the tongue. The tongue controls life and death around you. You know that's true by leadership throughout history. There have been strong leaders who have spoken nothing but good on their people, and there are people who speak nothing but death and deception and lies and insults. Whether they all smile with whatever they're saying, but you got to listen to what's being said. But therein lies the power of death and life. Proverbs 12:18, the words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise bring healing. Today, do you feel like your tongue, you have to be really honest with yourself, are you promoting healing? Are you bringing healing with what you say? Or are you promoting death? Reckless piercings with a sword, because your tongue's like a sword at times. And a sword can hurt. Some people don't know they're saying things that are painful, and some people do, and they say it anyway. I think sometimes a father can say to a son or a daughter, hey, you're clumsy. Stop dropping those glasses when you're washing them at night. They don't know what they're doing to that kid. That might be innocent versus people who know what they say is hurting. In fact, they want it to hurt. They go out of their way to make it hurt. Proverbs 26:28, a lying tongue, a tongue that lies, a tongue that exaggerates the truth or just makes it up. Listen to this. A lying tongue hates those it hurts. You may say, no, I was lying for good reason. I didn't want to hurt somebody. No, it says right here, a lying tongue hates those it hurts. And a flattering mouth works ruin. You ever had anybody really put the charm on you? How many of you women have been charmed? Anybody? I don't know. And really, it was meant to do you damage more than to really build you up in the Spirit of God. It was meant to get you to... Same thing with men. Have you ever been flattered as a man? I'm ugly, and I've been flattered. You can be flattered because somebody really wants something from you. They'll start kind of building you up, but it's false. But because all men love to be flattered, we go, I know that she doesn't mean that, but she'd say it anyway. You know how we are. But a flattering tongue, if you listen and really buy into it, it can ruin you. You've got to be careful. I wrote down here that the vast importance of our words may be best learned from Jesus himself as recorded in Matthew chapter 18. If you go over there and you've got one of those red letter editions, somebody else didn't say this. Jesus said it. He said it's Matthew 12:36, excuse me. I think I said 18, but that's not right. It's Matthew 12:36. And he says, every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by the words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Everybody's so worried about judging and condemning. Why are you judging me? Why are you condemning? That comes from your mouth. You're responsible for how you see the world. You're responsible for your responses. Blessed are those who are persecuted. But if you go always defending yourself and blaming everybody else for problems, now you're the one who's going to be judged by what you say and how you condemn. We have to be careful, guys. This thing this little fire starter right here, we're responsible for it. And according to Jesus, we're going to be held accountable for how we treat others by the voice and the words we use. Proverbs 21:23, whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. Have you ever found somebody who's always in trouble? They're just troubled. Life troubles them. They're troubled. Something's wrong. Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact they really can't keep their mouth out of trouble. That's on us. I'm responsible for the fires and the sparks I leave behind. I need to take more accountable I need to be more accountable of myself. Consider your tone and appearance, not just your words. Think about how you look. Think before you speak. How do you look? How are you reacting? Are you reacting quickly, harshly, defensively? Do you not mean to come off that way, but you sound that way? Tone is important. How are you using your words when you finally say them? This is stuff worth reflecting on. This is stuff we as Christians throughout the world need to take more seriously. We're too free with what we say and how we say it. Hopefully we don't appear too self-righteous, cocky, or angry when we respond to somebody. But we could. I have a dear friend who's told me before, you need to be careful how you talk to certain people. And I think in a nice way he was trying to tell me, you come across self-righteous. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I certainly don't want to come across cocky or angry. Sometimes my wife goes, what do you mean? And I'll say it. She goes, well, you just sound angry. And she's right, I do. And I need to admit that and confess that and be responsible for the fact that I can be angry. And maybe I'm not even trying to be. But I shoot my mouth off so fast, it sounds like I'm more angry than I really mean to be. But that's okay. I need to think about that. We need to think before we start talking. Your words say one thing, but our expressions and tones might convey another. We really need to watch ourselves. Take a little bit more responsibility for us. Okay, point number 2, we need to listen before we speak. James chapter 1:19 tells us, know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear and slow to speak. We talk too much. We need to listen, absorb, process, and not project what we think is being said. We need to stop assuming. We need to stop jumping to conclusions. But we're all guilty of it, are we not? Somebody can say one thing to us, somebody we kind of like, someone who we know they like us, so we like them. Somebody else can say the same truth, and because we don't care for that person, we're immediately all bent out of shape. How dare they say that when someone else can tell us the same thing? Maybe they're both right. The problem is our attitude, the way we're looking at what we would choose to listen. Well, I can take that from so-and-so, but boy, he better never say it. That guy over there better keep his mouth shut or I'll clock him. We need to realize that we need to process things a little bit more slowly. As the old adage is, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth. But we use that mouth like it's 5-fold, man. And it is more powerful than what we take in because we don't take things in. We don't listen. We're too busy defending ourselves, responding and making sure they know that our opinion's as important as theirs. We're going to have to explain the world the way we see it. they're going to criticize us or say, well, no, let me tell you my point of view. And we really, are so concerned about how we feel and how we're understood that we're liable to burn the very person who's able to help us most. I remember one time I was getting kind of chewed out at work for probably doing something stupid. And my boss was chewing me out. And she paused and said, "Stop looking at me like that." And I thought, like what? She said, "Like that." And then I walked away going, man, that really hurt. Plus she's going to criticize the way I was looking at her. But I knew how I was looking at her. I was looking at her, no offense, Dad, but just like my dad can look at me. Like, if you don't shut up, I'll kill you. That's how I perceived it as a child. Of course, he never meant it like that. But my dad had that look. And lo and behold, I have the same look. And I must have been giving it to her like, listen, lady, I'm only going to take about this much more. It's rude. I'm not saying my dad was rude to me. I probably deserved it. But I took on that countenance when people started telling me things I did not want to hear. It's rude. Instead of looking at her like she knew what she was talking about, even though I wasn't saying anything back, I looked at her in a way that I shouldn't have. Like, I'm only going to take so much more of you. It was just not the right look. I can whip it on my kid, but I shouldn't whip it on a boss at work. Right, Chris? I had the look. I had kids that you could just look at them and they'd shut up because they knew, oops, I must be saying something I shouldn't be saying. There's a time for the look and there's a time not to have it. And I was a little too free with it. Most of us are too eager to say too much when saying anything at all is already more than necessary. We need to learn how to put a cork in it. I love this. I found out a week or two ago that the word wait, an acronym for the word wait, is why am I talking? I can wait. I can listen. I can absorb. Why am I so busy talking when I need to be waiting? Okay, point number 3. Be sensitive when it is time to speak. We need to be sincere. James chapter 5, verse 13. Guys, if you ever want to memorize something in the Bible, you should memorize James 5:13. It's slowly becoming one of my very, very favorite scriptures. I've meditated on it. I continue to meditate on it. And I would suggest you do the same thing. James 5:13. Wisdom from above. Is it the wrong scripture? No, it's not. Prove it. You're thinking it's John. James 5:13.
No, I meant the actual scripture.
Oh, so how do you know I'm wrong? I hadn't even said it yet.
I'm looking at 5:13.
Tell you what, man. You married to somebody who knows the Bible like she does.
No, don't say that.
Okay, I take it back.
You're setting me up.
You might want to wait.
James,
I think it's
you know what? You're right.
It's 3:17.
It's 3:17. See, I was wrong. That's true.
I seriously think it's 3:17.
You are correct. I stand corrected. Okay, that's the scripture you need to know by heart, man. You need to know it. 3:17. But the wisdom that comes from above is first of all pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Another version of it is a wisdom from above is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. You need to meditate on it, think about it, dwell on it. Holding the tongue is a sign of wisdom, especially if you show that you can be impartial and sincere with your speaking. Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. We need to be more sensitive before we speak. Sensitive before we open our mouths. We're too quick to say what we want to say. Like what we have to say is the most important thing anybody needs to listen to. We need to be a little bit more sincere, thoughtful. I say that Galatians 5:22, the fruit of the Spirit can apply to our tongues. Learn the fruit of the Spirit, guys, and associate it with the way we conduct our mouths. For example, gentleness other than harshness. How many times our words are harsh rather than gentle? Kind, not caustic. In that world today, everybody's got to be more clever, more cute, more caustic, more biting. Not more caustic, but more biting than the next guy. And we need to be more caustic. Less quick wit. Everybody's got to have a quick wit. They got to be the brightest, coolest, smartest person in the room. More kindness. Not so caustic. No, I was right about caustic. We need to be less caustic and more kind. Be patient. Stop interrupting so much. Why am I talking? Boy, but I got to do it. Why? Need to be a little bit more patient. Let people finish. Listen to them before we're quick to add our 2 cents. More loving. Not so rude, not so bossy. More loving. Self-controlled. Stop saying the first impulse that comes to mind. It's not about us. You, Marcia. You know, we need to pull back a little bit.
Some of them won't get that right.
Yeah, if you don't get that reference, man, you are behind in social. Or you're not as old as we are, so that may not be fair. But the point is you don't want it to be about you. Look up the Brady Bunch if you don't understand Marcia. We need to be more self-controlled and stop saying the first impulse. I've already said that. Goodness. We can be more good. We need to be more uplifting. So much is woe is me. Whoa, man, I have it so bad. I had it so bad. You know what? We need to start thinking about how other people have it and not just ourselves when we're speaking. Amen. We can be more faithful in what we're saying, more loyal in saying what we mean and doing what we say we're going to do. We can do it more nicely. I think faithfulness has enough to say if you commit to doing something, you say you're going to do it, do it. That's part of being faithful to your word. If you're apologizing because you spoke out of turn, change and don't keep speaking out of turn. You could slip up, you might mess up, we all do. But if you're going to apologize to somebody because you're maybe, I don't know, let's say you're late all the time or whatever. Stop being late. I mean, it's faithful to live up to what you say you're going to do. Bob, I saw you look at Sonia. Don't tell me she's late all the time. Okay, Bob's late all the time. She's ahead of him. But the point is, if you're going to say something, do what you say. That's being faithful. If you're going to apologize, stick to it. If you're in a relation with somebody, then they keep cheating on you or they keep lying to you, you're in a bad relationship. If they keep apologizing, but they never change. It's important to be faithful to your partner and mean what you say. Lisa brought up a good point this morning, because I give her my notes, and she said, it's not just about communicating as in verbal communication. Texting can be a problem. Facebooking can be a problem. Don't just get on there and wound and be wounded. That's just another thing, another fire that we set because we think we're explaining ourselves or our emotions or I hate that job. You can get fired. Use your noddle a little bit. Watch what you say when you start texting and get on Facebook. Social media emphasizes speed. You've got to react right away. You got to speak right away. Is that smart? Are you thinking before you speak? Are you listening before you speak? Or are you just rattling off your opinion or whatever? To be more conscientious of the world around us. So anyway, in conclusion, we could all speak less. At least, number one, we should think before we speak. Number two, we can all listen better before we think. Remember, wait. Why am I talking when I could be listening? And lastly, speak more calmly, more gently, and be more sensitive when we do speak. We need to kind of know the room. How many times have your children rushed in and they're upset about something? You need to listen before you need to say, that kid did what? You need to listen. Same thing with husbands and wives. We might be sharing a bad moment. The other one can take time and listen a little bit, be a little bit more sensitive before we give an answer. Well, here's what you can do to fix that. Usually when somebody says something like, here's what you can do to fix that, and the person comes in and they're in a mood or whatever, probably what you're telling them is the stupidest thing you could possibly say. They may actually do it and you'll be sorry. Anyway, that's it for today. So I don't have no idea what time it is. It's 10:59. That's twice this year. I'm going to keep it up. I'm going under the best I can. Lisa, you want to turn this thing off?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for spending time with us this morning. We're so appreciative of you turning in. Don't be afraid to share. Share the message with somebody. I don't think I'll embarrass you too bad. I might. But you should take the risk. Share it if you're listening online. It's not going to hurt anybody. Let's spread the word, man. Anyway, okay, thank you. Bye-bye. All right.